In the Gospels, one of the things that's always amazing to me is all the different responses that people have to Jesus. We see the rich, the poor, the religious, Jews, Gentiles, all different people, and they all seem to have a different response to him, with the exception of the demons. Demons always seem to react in a way that we expect, and it's always small variation on the same type of response. And this morning, we're going to look at a passage in Mark that talks about 3 different encounters with Jesus, and they result in 3 different responses. So let's look chapter 5 of Mark. Just look at verse 1. It says, "Then they," Jesus and the disciples, after the stilling of the storm on the sea, they come onto the other side into the country of the Gerasenes. Can we see that map 1? Or picture 1? Yes. This is the country of the Gerasenes, the Decapolis, which literally means 10 cities. These cities were taken over, this whole region, by General Pompey, a famous Roman general, in about 63 BC. Mostly Roman settlements, mostly Gentile. Some people will tell you that's not true. Those people are incorrect. We know that this is mostly a Gentile area in the land of Israel. Remember, Israel was under the rule of the Romans, and the Romans had garrisons, the Romans had troops, the Romans had areas that they controlled. I believe it's this area that's referred to by Isaiah in chapter 1 and 2. You remember, you'll know this. "But there was no more gloom for her who was in anguish. In earlier times he treated the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali with contempt. But later he, God, made it glorious by way of the sea on the other side of the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light, and those who live in a dark land, the light will shine on them." This is the Galilee of the Gentiles. This is where they crossed over into this area. Now, when we read the story in Mark at the end, beginning of 5, end of 4, it just says that they came across after the storm and landed on the shore. We don't really know if it was day or night. It takes approximately 2 hours to cross the Sea of Galilee in that time, but we don't know how long they were out on the sea. We don't know how long the storm lasted. We don't know any of those things. So it could have happened at night or it could have happened in the morning. I discussed it with my wife and she said it was the morning, so it's the morning. They landed, and it says verse 2 to 5. Listen, this is, I think, one of the saddest and most frightening descriptions of any person who's ever lived. It says, "When he," Jesus, "got out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. He had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one was able to bind him anymore, even with a chain, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been torn apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Constantly, night and day, he was screaming among the tombs and in the mountains and gashing himself with stones." Can we see the second picture? This is the old rendition of the man running up to Jesus. It says immediately when the boat hit, the man ran up to him. And we see the description when he gets out. The man had an unclean spirit. But everything about him, according to Jewish law, the law of Moses, and Jewish tradition, was unclean. The Talmud, the Jewish writings, the commentary, they had 4 different conditions of madness or craziness, and this man fulfilled every one. The first was a person would walk abroad at night, just wandering around at night aimlessly. That's what this man did. It said day and night he walked around. The second is the idea of spending the night on a grave or in a graveyard. This man lived in the graveyard, lived among the tombs, tearing one's clothes. We know this man too was naked. We see later at the end of this section, he was clothed and in his right mind. Man was never wore anything. And the last was destroying what one was given. This man obviously had no possessions. We don't know what was given to him, but if you even want to say in the sense this idea of the chains and the shackles, he destroyed everything. The people tried to tie him up because they were frightened to death of him, but no one could. And the word used here for subdue is the same word James uses when he's talking about the tongue, and he says, no one can tame a wild beast. It's the same word that's used here for subdue. They're trying to tame him. He's like a wild man. They want to keep him under control. And they chained him and shackled him, and it says that he broke them apart. Literally shattered them. That's a pretty frightening picture. And above all this, I don't know about you, but to me, in ministry, I've had experience with a lot of different things. I wish I was smarter than I am, but that can't be helped. Experience I have, brains maybe not so much. But when people have a physical problem, I can understand it a little bit. I mean, I've been to the hospital many times. I've been in the hospital. I know, I can see that. When people have some kind of mental difficulty, it's really hard to, people will say things to you that make no sense, or they're here and there, and it's very frustrating and difficult to deal with. But that's how this man was. It said constantly, night and day, he would scream and cut himself. Can you imagine living near this? Can you imagine that every night they'd I don't know about you, but I would not like that. Constantly, night and day, constantly, he screamed and cut himself with stones. This is a cleaned up picture. Can you imagine what this guy looked like? This guy was tormented. It's impossible to imagine what his life was like. And the thing which I had not really given thought to before this was that underneath all of this, he was still that man. And he knew. It wasn't like he wasn't aware of what was happening. That was a great part of the torment. He was still who he was. But he was possessed. And he lived this way. And the best response and the sympathy he got from the people of the town was they tried to tie him up so he couldn't get out of there. That was his life. Separated, unclean, tormented. And he sees Jesus and he runs up to him. It says, verse 6 to 8, seeing Jesus from a distance, he ran up, bowed down before him, and shouting with a loud voice, he said, what business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God, do not torment me. For Jesus had been saying to him, come out of him, you unclean spirit. So the first thing we see when this man sees Jesus is he runs up and bows down. He acknowledges the superiority of Jesus. That's his first act. And then it says, he says, what business do we have with each other? And there's all kinds of interpretations of, idioms. The simple thing is, he said to Jesus, what are you going to do with me? That's what he's asking him. So not only does he kneel down and acknowledge Jesus' superiority, he also realizes that his destiny is in the hands of Jesus. What are you going to do with me? That's what he says. And then he addresses Jesus, and understanding the ideas of the times, and some of this stuff even carried through in the magical or incantation sense all the way up to the Middle Ages. People of this time believed if you called someone by their full name, it gave you power over them. It was like a mystical belief kind of. You see what this demon does. He says, what do we have to do? What are you going to do with me? Jesus, Son of the Most High God. And I think that the demon was doing this. It seems silly, but I think that's what he's wrestling for some kind of authority, some kind of power. He knows Jesus is superior, but he's going to try to get control over him by mentioning him by name. And he says to him, Jesus, Son of the Most High God. If indeed, which I believe that region was an area of the Gentiles, one of the things the Romans were known for were they were polytheists. They had many different gods. This demon's telling him, Jesus, Son of the Most High God. That you're not a son of God or son of a God. You are the Son of the God. That's what he's saying. He has a clear picture of who Jesus is. He separates him from all the others. And the weird thing, if you think about it, he says to him, I implore you by God. And implore simply means to beg. He's begging Jesus not to torment him in God's name. Isn't that a bizarre thing? A demon, an enemy of God's, begging for mercy through God. I mean, that's just a strange thing. That he would mention the name of God and ask for mercy in the name of God. And he's doing all this because Jesus is telling the demon to come out of him. And in that day, and you see, I know it's kind of crazy, you see all the way through to the movie The Exorcist, everybody always has these big formulas on how to exorcise a demon, you know. How do you get a demon out of, you do this, you do this, you do this, you know, and so you wear garlic and all the... With Jesus, it was the word alone. Just his word. That's all it took. No rigmarole, no fancy nonsense. It says, in the beginning, the world was created. How? The Word. In the beginning, the Word was there. The Word was powerful enough to bring this demon out. He didn't need any other window dressing, so to speak. So it's very clear that it was by him and his authority alone. And Jesus said to him, what is your name? And they said to him, the demon, my name is Legion, for we are many. And he began to beg him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now, in the thinking of the day for the rabbis believed that in order to cast out a demon, you had to get the demon to say its name. It's one of the reasons why they believed that one of the miracles that was proof of the Messiah was if you could cast a demon out of a person that was mute, you had to be divine, because in order to get a demon out, you had to know his name, call him by name, tell him to get out. If you couldn't get the man or the person or whatever to say the name of the demon, you couldn't cast a demon out unless you were divine. Jesus, in this case, is not asking the demon's name to gain control over him. I think he merely did it to show the seriousness of the situation. This is one of the most frightening verses to me in all of Scripture. What is your name? And he says, Legion, for we are many. Can you imagine this? I mean, that's just horribly frightening to me. In the time of Jesus, a Roman legion typically consisted of about 5,100 soldiers. With all the auxiliary people and everything, a normal legion in Roman times was about 6,000 people. There's some people that have minor variations on it, and you know, people talk about this. Some say it was not a literal number. Some people say it was just to show that Messiah had great power. All I know is what the text says. We are legion. Why in the world you'd fight over the number is absolutely beyond me. It's such a frightening picture that it puts aside the biggest point in the world. To have a demon describe himself as legion is frightening enough. James Edward in his commentary said, it's a chilling reminder, which it is, of the number, power, and intention of the demons. Can you imagine that? Being there, you're there. You see this guy run up. I would be frightened to death. All the people of the area were frightened of him. They couldn't tame him. He was uncontrollable. He didn't know what he was going to do. You get out of the boat, Jesus walks out, and this guy starts running up. I mean, that's pretty frightening. You wouldn't know what was going on until he bowed down. And then Jesus has a conversation with him, and he said, what's your name? Legion, for we are many. How is it possible to be possessed by a legion of demons? I don't know. But we have scriptural examples of people that were possessed by multiple demons. We have the example of Mary Magdalene. Luke writes this, soon afterwards, Jesus, began going around one city and village to another, proclaiming, preaching the kingdom of God. There were 12 with him, and also some women who had been healed of evil spirits and sicknesses. Mary was called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out. So we know there's a multiple possession. Another time, Jesus was asked about casting out demons, and he said this, when an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, and obviously the house here is a person, it finds a house unoccupied, swept clean, and put into order. The demon's cast out, the person gets their order in life, but they never come into a relationship with God. And then it says, then it goes, the demon takes 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live. So it's possible. We have specific examples of a person being possessed by multiple demons. And here it says, this man is possessed by legion. And then they know Jesus is going to cast them out, and they beg him not to send him out of not to send them out of the country. This is a place where they felt safe in the area of the Decapolis, the 10 cities. We see there's demon involvement when you come back. We're kind of taking a close view. You step back. We see there's demon involvement in the whole thing of Jesus coming to the land. The storm that happened on the sea was not really a natural storm. It seems to be a supernatural storm brought about by people, demons, trying to keep Jesus out of the land. He comes right into the land. Who's the first person that meets him? This legion, this person who's possessed. There's people, I've read many times, who believe demons are given certain areas to control in the world. One of the main passages used for that is in Daniel, when Daniel's praying and he doesn't get an answer from God, and finally an angel comes and says, don't be afraid, Daniel, I was on my way, but the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for 21 days, and behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. So here's some kind of spiritual battle. And people think that the spiritual king of Persia was a demon who was given control of that area. I don't know. I think about that. And I went to one of the ultimate resources I could find, gotquestions.org. It's really pretty good. And the person who answers the question writes this: a problem inherent with the term territorial spirits is that some Christians believe it's their duty to engage in territorial demons in spiritual warfare. This cannot be justified by Scripture. There's not a single instance, and I see that's true. Do demons have control of certain areas? I would say yes, they have whatever control God allows them to have. Are we called to go into battle with these people? I don't think so. We don't see that happen in the Bible anywhere ever. So I will do, my son David asked me a question this week, and I said to him, I wish you asked me that when I was 20 years old. I would have known the answer, but now I don't. And that's how I feel about this. If you asked me 20 years ago, 40 years ago now, whatever, I would have known, but I don't know. So for now, with this whole topic of demons controlling areas, I'm going to do what I do best, open up the can of worms and leave it. So here's where we are. They come, the man comes, finds out there's a demon. He knows he's getting cast out, and the demon says, don't send me out of this country. And Jesus listens to him, and it says now, in verse 11, now there was a large herd of swine feeding nearby on the mountain. And the demons begged him, saying, send us into the swine so we may enter them. And Jesus gave them permission. And coming out, the unclean spirits entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, about 2,000 of them, and they were drowned in the sea. This next picture shows the artist's rendition. I mentioned this before, but it's impossible to find really modern art that depicts, not that I think this is insufficient in any way, but nobody's really doing any Bible pictures anymore. So we have to go back like a century or 2 centuries almost now. But I cannot imagine what a horrible thing. Imagine the disciples. You come out of the boat. We're in Capernaum. All crowds all over Jesus. Everything's going on. They couldn't find time to eat. They're tired, exhausted. It says evening they go in the boat to go across the shore. And then you get into the middle of the Sea of Galilee, and it's an unbelievable storm, and everybody thinks they're going to die. And you come through that. You're exhausted. You come to the other side of the shore, and a man runs up, and you find out there's legion, and there's pigs nearby, and Jesus casts. It would be overwhelming sensory experience. I cannot imagine how this could happen. And there's so many people today, modern quote-unquote scholars, who say that this was just put into the text later. It really didn't happen that way. Well, you know what? The Bible's a reliable document. It really is. You look back, there's more copies of the Bible than there is of any ancient writing by tens of thousands. The transmission has been... This happened this way. The demons were sent down into the pigs, and what happened? It was a horror scene. I can't imagine what it was like. Why were the pigs chosen? I don't know. I mean, they're unclean animals according to Jewish laws. I don't know what the reason is, but 2,000 terrified, screaming animals running to their death is just such a horrid picture. I just can't wrap my head around it. My son went away for a couple months, and he asked Sharon and I to watch. He's got a goldfish and a little frog. And he said to me, I said, I'm concerned because I don't know, I'm not an expert, I'm Googling this. And he said to me, if it dies, it's not the worst thing in the world. Oh, I can't have a goldfish die on my watch. I can't do it. I can't. I got to go over there. I'm cleaning the tank. I'm looking. 2,000 screaming pigs. I cannot imagine it. I mean, I just, but I think the reason is it gives us a clear picture of demons. This is what they do. That man in the tombs was made in the image of God. And the demons marred that image. That's what they did. They took the picture of God and put it out of focus. And we see the same thing here with these animals. That what did the demons do? They terrorized these animals and they killed them. They destroyed them. That's what demons do. That's the kingdom against God. Look at the events that happened this week in the country. I'm not totally excusing. I don't know. Some things are too much for me to figure out. But you cannot tell me there's not demon influence. Not with this kind of hatred. Not with this kind of callousness towards human life. That's demonic. That's what demons do. I mean, this thing of 2,000 pigs, it's a horrible thing. There's plenty of people getting killed in our country. And I think there's a lot of demon activity behind that. It's the hatred, the terror, the callousness. It's demonic. And this is a picture in the animal world of what demons really do. Sends the pigs. Pigs are destroyed. And then it says 14 and 15. The herdsman ran away and reported into the city what happened into the city and the country. And the people who lived there came to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and observed the man who had been demon-possessed, sitting down in his right clothes, his right mind. The very man who had had the legion. They became frightened. You bet those herdsmen reported what happened. I mean, you ever see when a traffic accident happens? People pull over, roads stop, crowds come around. When anything happens like that, these guys were the news media of the day. This is what happened. People ran out to see. They wanted to see. Collected a crowd. It was just absolutely horrible. And what did they see when they got there? Legion was clothed. He wasn't naked. He wasn't screaming out. But it says he was clothed and in his right mind and sitting at the feet of Jesus. The unclean was made clean. The madman was given his mind back. And he was sitting at the feet of Jesus. And the result of this was they were frightened of Jesus. I sometimes hear people criticize. I would have been frightened. I mean, that whole thing, it unnerves me reading about it. I couldn't imagine being there. It's a frightening thing. And it says they became frightened. They were frightened in the same way that the disciples were in the boat. Remember at the end when Jesus calms everything down, the disciples said, "Who is this guy? Who is this man?" That's the same thing that these people were thinking. You know, imagine some of those people were the same ones who listened to these cries day and night. Some of those people were the same ones that tried to put shackles on the feet and hands of this man. Some of these people were ones that probably would have gone out of their way so they wouldn't have to go through or around this area where he lived. And they come and they see him sitting at the feet of Jesus in their right mind. It was a frightening thing. Very, very strange thing. You know, I can understand why they were uncomfortable. But what an incredible thing. And then it says in 16 and 17, those who had seen it described to them how it happened to the demon-possessed man and all about the swine. And here's their response to Jesus. And they began to beg him to leave their region. People often talk about the power of God and how it would change their life and how it would cause them to believe. It's not always true. I've seen God work, and I'll tell you, my first response a lot of times is I get a little nervous. You know, you see God intervene in something. I mean, it catches you off guard. I know that this is a really stupid example, but it's the same thing like when a person has a baby. Like my nephew and his wife just had a little baby. For 9 months, I know the baby's coming. I mean, you can't miss the signs of the baby coming. You see all the people preparing, and especially in this day and age, it's a lot different than when I was young. Like, the whole world is focused around the baby. You got all kinds of things and names and this. I mean, I'm glad that my kids were born a long time ago. I could barely handle the crib and, car seats. Forget about that. Only the strong survived in the old days. But you know the baby's coming. People go to the hospital, baby's born, and you think, man, I can't believe that. Like, this is incredible. Look at this kid. It's like a miracle. It's unbelievable. And I feel the same way about the things in the works of God. Like, we know who he is. We know that he is above all, creator of all. And then sometimes he intervenes with things and we're like shocked. It's the same kind of thing. And here, these guys saw the power of God, and what did they do? They said, listen, please, get out of here. We don't want you to stay here. And it's funny because it's the opposite of what the demons asked him. The demons asked to stay in the country. Isn't that weird? Please don't send us out of the country. Please get out of our country. I mean, it happens back to back. It's so strange. And you know the thing that surprises me too? And I don't understand this fully, but Jesus did what they asked him. The demons wanted to stay, they stayed. The other people asked him to leave, he left. And I think he would have stayed if they had asked him, because remember when he was with the woman at the well in Samaria? And he meets the woman and he tells her, and she goes and tells all the people what happened. Remember? They came to hear him, remember? The people in Samaria. And then they asked him to stay. And he said, I can't. I have other things to do. These people, just like with the woman at the well, when the news came to them, they came too, they saw him, and they said, please go. We don't want you to stay. And Jesus leaves. And I think that's an incredible thing. And it's a frightening thing to me too, because the God of the universe will do what he's requested many times. I mean, you think about it. I know people who have told me that they want nothing to do with God. I mean, to me, nothing. I don't want God with nothing to do with him. And you know what? God leaves them alone in general. And that's what I'm saying. I understand there's more play to this, and I understand all the Calvin theories, and I understand all that. But it seems, humanly speaking, that God leaves them alone. And the thing to me is, the people that ask God to leave him alone, someday he's going to honor that request eternally. And those people will be without God for eternity. That's what they requested. That's frightening to me. These people are a picture of that. Hey, we supposed to say, yeah, hey, please, leave us alone. That's what happened. And then at the end of this section, here's the response of the man, Legion. As he was getting into the boat, Jesus, the man who had been demon-possessed was begging that he might accompany him. begging. And he did not let him, but said to him, "Go home to your people and report to them the great things that the Lord has done for you, and how he had mercy on you." And he went away, the man, and began to proclaim in the Decapolis what great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed. And we see this man's response. The people there begged Jesus to go. This man's begging to go with Jesus. He begged him. He wanted to go along. And Jesus told him, "No, I have something for you to do." And it shows me, too, this man, that he had this great relationship. He wanted to go with Jesus more than anything. And Jesus said, "No, I have something for you to do. I want you to stay here and be my witness." Unlike the leper, unlike other people in the Gospel of Mark, which we have and we will look at, Jesus tells him, "Go and tell everybody." There's no restrictions, nothing. This man was the witness for Jesus in the region of the 10 cities. That's what Jesus wanted him to do. And this man was a real servant, because he put his own personal desire aside and did what Jesus wanted him to do. That's really incredible. He gave up his greatest desire to be with Jesus, to go and do what Jesus needed him to do. And he went throughout the whole region. John MacArthur, in his commentary, says, when Jesus returns to this region, and you can read it for yourself, in Mark 7 and 8, there were massive crowds that came to hear him that time, most likely from the testimony of this man. I believe that's true. I believe that he was given this mission and he went out and he did it. Because Mark writes, when everybody heard what he said, they were amazed. This man, in a very real sense, helped lay the foundation for the ministry to the Gentiles in that entire region. Pretty amazing and incredible. 3 different things we see in this passage. The first is the encounter with Legion. This demon, or a group of demons, recognizes who Jesus is immediately, knows him, calls him Son of the Most High God. He knows, the demon knows he has a power over the spiritual world and knows it immediately. There's no question, every time Jesus encounters a demon, they know who he is. And we read in James, James says, speaking to the believers there, "You believe God is one, you do well. The demons also believe and shudder." So the demons know who God is. They're very well aware. They're not ignorant of who his person is. That's first response. Second is the people of the area. They come to realize who Jesus is, but they want no part of him. I don't know if they had a full, complete knowledge of him, but they certainly knew that he was not an ordinary man. Certainly. I mean, this was part of their daily life. They knew this guy. They knew Jesus had unique power. They knew something was special about him. They didn't want to have anything to do with him. And when they realized this, they begged him to leave. And I think, in generally speaking, that's most of the people in the world. They don't have a complete knowledge of who Jesus is, but they have enough of a knowledge, but they want him to, kind of leave them alone. And then we have the unclean man, his response with his encounter. He was made clean, and he begged to follow the Savior. I mean, this is a man, in the fullest sense of the term, born again. This man was. He was completely made new and a servant of God. And when he realized that, he begged to go with him. He put everything else aside and put Jesus first. Doesn't think about anything but him. When he was told he couldn't come and had another responsibility, that was to share the Messiah, he did it willingly to show that he was a true servant. We know he did because Mark mentions it in detail. I think, as I mentioned, in today's world, most people would rather have God leave them alone. They know a little bit about him, but he's pretty inconvenient in your lifestyle. And I think for many people who respond like the unclean man, and I'm thinking, generally speaking, again, it's probably most of us in this room, I think that we start out that way, but we have a tendency to cool off as time goes on. I mean, I want you to think back. I remember, the first time, Not that you heard about Jesus. First time that through the Spirit of God you really understood who he was. And I think all part of that is you realize, oh my goodness, I'm really pretty sinful. I'm not like pretty good. I don't have good days, bad days. I'm not good compared to this guy. I'm not good compared to that woman. You don't think, well, we think, oh my goodness. It's like the blinders come off. Oh man, I'm really rotten. And then you realize what God did for you, and the response normally is an unbelievable zeal. If you don't remember, you ask all your family members and friends how obnoxious you were when you first came to faith. Couldn't shut up about what happened. And if you were like me, you thought the same thing that, I did, that the only reason they didn't come is because they never heard. So I got to tell them. And then they didn't come when they heard from me, so maybe I didn't tell them the right way. So I need to tell them this way. And maybe they didn't hear enough times, so if I tell them again, but that's how we were. That's how everyone is at first is born again and realizes the great grace and mercy that God showed. We're like this man. What do you want us to do? What can we do? We want to get in the boat. But as time goes on, I think that sometimes that's what happens with us. And out of all these things this morning, yes, we have a great and wonderful, powerful God. A God who is gracious and merciful and kind, compassionate. He sees this poor man and he rescues him. And he did the same thing for each one of us that have come into relationship with him. My challenge to us, because I'm putting me first, the problem for me is I've already been thinking about this for the whole week. I wish I could come in at the tail end, but our problem is that let us think about the great relationship we have with God. Let's go back to when we first came to faith. Let's go back to when Jesus really was number one in our life. Not a list of priorities. Let's go back and think about how he rescued us. Maybe not from a legion of demons, but certainly from a legion of sin. Let's recapture that excitement. Let's be like this man. Let us be sitting at the feet of Jesus, wanting to follow him because of the great mercy that he showed to us.